Hello, this is a Postbag video. Let's try opening this with my bare hands. Oh, actually, I don't want to break what's inside it. But yeah, let's just rip it open like that. What's in here? Oh, lots of these things. PB160 Pro battery testers. Yeah, 8 of these things, all individually wrapped, which I've got to take out of their bags. There we are, 8 of them, all unwrapped. So let's give one a little bit of a test. Okay, firstly with a C-type power plug. Oh, that's a Wilco. Yeah, Wilco, who are sadly going into administration. Although I must say I went there the other day and there was absolutely nothing I wanted. Okay, so that's 1.53. Let's try that now with a lithium iron phosphate. So 3.2 volt nominal. That's 3.36. And what else have I got? Lithium ternary, nickel manganese cobalt, which is, oh yeah, if you press hard it's fine. So that's 3.52. That's really the selling point of the BT168. It can do 1.2 volts to 4.8 and the slide comes out wide enough to do an 18650. Now here's an interesting thing. The BT168D could do an 18650 because I worked out that you can measure up to 8 volts, but you just simply can't fit it in there because the slide doesn't open wide enough. It does on this one, but I don't know whether you remember, which is odd. Why does that open wide enough for an 18650? This one had a 3.9 ohm resistor, so 4 volts, 3.9 ohms, 4 ohms, that's 1 amp. That's 4 watts into that little tiddly surface mount resistor. Shall we see if it likes 4 watts into that surface mount resistor? Oh, it's going to get hot. Anyway, there's certainly plenty of power in there. Now the critical thing with these 8 testers is that they all give the same voltage reading on this lithium iron phosphate, because that's ultimately what these are going to do. They're just going to measure the cell voltages on an 8-cell LiFePO4. So let's go through them. 3.35, 3.34 stroke 5, well, that's not a very good start. 3.36. I was hoping that these would all be the same. They're not bad actually. 3.35. Oh, 3.33. And I don't know whether they would be adjustable in any way. 3.35. Maybe you just have to buy such a large number of them that you can select on test all the ones that measure the same. They're within 30 millivolts, which isn't bad. 3.34. Yeah, so they're all within 30 millivolts. Okay, that's interesting. If you're liking this video, and I know it's early days,
press the like button.
So this is the one I bought. This is on Aliexpress, the BT168 Pro digital battery tester. I got it from Giant Power Store because they had the lowest item price, £1.36. There is a shipping of £1.70, which comes to a similar price to what the other sellers are doing. But when you have multiple quantities, the shipping price didn't go up as quickly as some other sellers were. That's why I bought this. Now it says that it tests up to 4.8 volts, but where does it top out? It's that way, isn't it? Is it the same as the BT168D? So 3.07, which topped out at 8 volts, or will this top out at 4.8, like what it says there? No, 6.1 something. Let's go for the third one. Yeah, so this does exactly the same as the BT168D and seems to top out at 8 volts. Fine. Okay, next up is this one. Now this is one of these Chai Now delivery service items, which normally turn up
with using the Every service, but for some reason this got lost and then entered the Royal Mail system, and then they sent me a card saying you have to pay an extra £3.50, which includes all these admin charges, for us to deliver it. So I don't quite know how that happened, but this cost me, so yeah, it better be good. And it is supercapacitor module. So it's 2 super caps. They're Samwa green cap, 2.7 volts. That's a 5.4 volt unit. 500 farad, so it's a 250 farad with the caps being in series. And what I liked about this one particularly was the fact that the caps are bolted onto the PCB, so you could conceivably undo those bolts. They seem to have some sort of gunk on them, and swap caps around on boards. Now I was just looking at this, working out the resistance here that is put across the capacitor when this MOSFET turns on, and I notice there's nothing in the position for U1. There is on this side. On there it's sort of fallen off. So if on the basis that U2 is a MOSFET which puts these resistors across the cap, U1 I'm guessing is the little voltage trigger IC which presumably triggers at 2.7 volts, and it ain't there. So I'm going to have to go back to the seller on this one and moan about that. Maybe they could just send me the PCB. That would be a solution, wouldn't it? And then I could take the caps off, put them on the new PCB, and that would sort it. But yeah, 4R7, let's call it 5 ohms. 2 of those in parallel, that's 2.5 ohms. It's a bit less than that, isn't it? 2.7 volts, let's call it 2.5 volts. 2.5 volts, 2.5 ohms. So this is a 1 amp discharge circuit, which is quite good. I'm now screwing this big, I don't know, 6mm, something like that, screw into these holes. These are the 2 holes which are positive and negative across the outsides here for the 5.4 volts. And the reason I'm doing that, in fact it's a bit pointless really, because if I'm going to get this PCB changed, that's not going to work. But yeah, my thinking is I like everything to be sort of standardized on 4mm banana plugs, and I quite like XT60s as well, so I'm sort of making up interconnections for all that stuff. But this is a 4mm banana plug, and I think it has that thread, so I should be able to screw that into there. The only problem is, how do I grip this circle? I have to use pliers, I guess, but then that tends to chew them up. To screw that hard into there so that this then becomes banana plug compatible.
So this is supercapacitor, 5.4 volts, 250 farads. Automobile, I don't know why it's automobile, because this is a 5-volt one. So this was £8.04. Oh, that's odd. This product can't be shipped to your address. Now, normally when that happens, this flag up here has changed to Afghanistan, and they obviously don't ship much stuff to Afghanistan. So, but it's not that on this occasion. They seem to have decided that they're not shipping to the UK anymore. I don't know why. So I can't really remember what the postage was on this thing. Also, you've got to bear in mind that on Aliexpress, these prices are VAT exclusive. So by the time you go to pay, it's always a surprising amount more than you thought it was going to be.
Next up, these. Right, let's rip this one to shreds, and inside is that, and then the other one is similarly wrapped. Let's take a look. Yeah, so these are active balancers, but they're quite different to the ones I've previously purchased. So that's an 8S active balancer on a very small board, and it's got, are these MOSFETs or are they specific active balancer chips? That's interesting. There's nothing. Yeah, 8S active balancer. Let's get in a bit closer. and I don't know, there must be a control chip somewhere. Is it that thing offset there? But this uses all MLCC capacitors, which is interesting. MLC, I suppose, capacitors, multi-layer ceramics. Okay, the second one, let's put the camera back up, is this. And again, it's an active balancer, but again, it's different to the type that I've bought before. Oh, that's very optimistic high current wiring, isn't it? And so this one is... oh, all the little feet have fallen out. I'll have to pick those up. Yeah, this one just uses electrolytics sort of lying down on the board. It's a very curious design. Once again, these chips, are they MOSFETs or are they something else? We'll have a look at that. Those are 3 of the legs. So they're different to the ones I've used before. I'll go and get that one. So this is the type that I've used up to now. This is a 4S. I also have an 8S one of these which doesn't have the touch switch. The touch switch is completely useless because I found that you touch it, the circuit comes on, and then just randomly it switches back off again. You can link that out on this one. You put a link across these 2 pins, and that just shorts the output of the touch switch chip. It's very crude, but it means that this is running all the time, which I think you want. But now this says up to 5 amps. Realistically, you can't get 5 amps. I've seen an amp, but that only occurred when one of my cells was really discharged and the other one was really charged. But I did wonder whether you could get something perhaps that worked at a slightly lower current. So I want to try this MLCC one. This is 8S. I think this one is 4S. But MLCC seems like a very good idea because I think they're low ESR, aren't they? And they're certainly very tiny. So it'd be interesting to give that one a go. And I can't remember what the current specs of these 2 are. So let's go to Aliexpress and take a look at that.
So this is the one with the electrolytic sort of lying down on the board. And you can see that they've got 3 types that you can order from these boxes down here. A 4S, a 6S and an 8S. And they talk of these as being 3 amps. You're very unlikely to get 3 amps. But they still might shift a reasonable amount of current, certainly more than the tens of milliamps that BMSs tend to balance at, which I found are nearly useless. So yeah, I bought the 4S, didn't I? But there is a 6S and there is an 8S. Okay, the one I bought, £4.64, shipping £3.37. Remember to add VAT. And this is the one with the MLCCs, 3S, 4S, 5S, 6S, 8S, 14S, 17S and 21S. And you can do lithium ion, LiFePro 4, LTO, that's lithium titanate, isn't it? Balancer. Now this one says 0.8 amps or 1.5 amps. I don't know what the conditions are for getting those currents. You probably can't. I just thought actually it's probably this little 6-pin chip down here that's the controller for this, and then these 8-pin chips are probably just MOSFETs. So yeah, here are all the types. 4S. I went for 8S. That's 7S. So I went for that one. Not sure why there's this offset chip here. That's a bit strange. If that is this, if this 6-pin chip is the controller. Interesting. And what's this pad here for something that's not been fitted? It's all interesting stuff, and we'll have to come back to all this at a later date. But again, so the 8S was £3.83, shipping £1.93. Remember to add on VAT.
And so yeah, these are today's Postbag items. Now, big thanks to my Patreon patrons. What I generally do is I release videos pretty much on the day I shoot them to my Patreon patrons, which they can watch before I switch on the Google ads, and then generally the following day I release it to everybody. So if you'd like to become a Patreon patron, you can click down there. More videos up here, and subscribe to the channel down here. Cheerio.